Wow. What? Well, hello, Scranton. Wow. Wow. Well, thank you all. Wow. To Susan, first of all, thank you for the kind introduction, but thank you for sharing and trusting us with your story, understanding how important this election is. And thank you for proving my point when I said in Chicago, don't ever underestimate a public school teacher. So, ever. Mayor Cognetti, thank you for having us here. I have to tell you, I'm taking her line when she said, quit wringing your hands and door knock. That's somebody who knows that there's work in front of us, and it doesn't do any good. Stay off the news. Stay off the social media. There's a group of folks who, their entire careers to make this thing a horse race or to try and get you to click on something. That doesn't improve things, and she knows that, so I'm grateful. Senator Flynn, thank you. We know the work that's done at the state level makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. I know a little something about being a governor, and I was chair of the Democratic Governors Association. I can tell you what America found out not too long after you made the great decision to make Josh Shapiro your governor. So, incredible. You make a lot of great decisions here, and I'll have to tell you this. You know what you've got here in Pennsylvania. The rest of the country knows, and we are begging you, make sure you do everything you can to send Bob Casey back to the Senate. You've got to. He's incredible. And I don't know if you heard me backstage there when President Hamilton, when Bill Hamilton's speaking, Teamsters, to all of my sisters and brothers in labor, thank you for being here tonight. But I'm saying amen to everything that guy's saying because he's exactly right. He knows where Donald Trump stands, and he knows where Kamala Harris stands. And I'll tell you what, our good friends over at the United Auto Workers, President Sean Fain, he just summed it up better than anything. He said Donald Trump's a scab, and that's the end of it. And that is the end of it. And all of you, especially that guy in the buffalo plaid back here. I appreciate that. So, to all of you, thank you. Look, it might be one of the most glorious afternoons. It's a Friday afternoon. You took time to come find parking. You got kids going elsewhere. You finished work. You got stuff going. But you chose to come here into this beautiful space. But you knew exactly why you came here. You came here because you love this country. That's why you came here. Simple. And this crowd doesn't surprise me because this is a place, the place we stand. I'm a geographer. Place matters. Where you stand matters. Where you're from matters. This is a place with a long tradition of people who know something about hard work and people know what it means to serve this nation. And you even have somebody who knows what it means to be president of the United States from here. So. To Scranton, to the culture, to what this means, I want you to know this country owes a huge debt to you and a huge debt to Joe Biden. So, hey. Throughout our history, our presidents have understood some pretty simple things about this. They have always put this country above themselves, no matter the cost to their personal ambitions or what happened to them. Joe Biden has secured his place in history by upholding that tradition. As the mayor said, I served as governor when Donald Trump was president, and I served as governor when Joe Biden was president. And I can tell you the difference you can't even imagine. Having a president in the White House like Joe Biden who always thought of the American public, always thought of the people, always did what he could do. I'm grateful to Joe Biden. He has strengthened our country and all he did to protect our democracy for future generations to come. That patriotism, that fierce patriotism, to put the American people first, is exactly what guides Kamala Harris in the course of her entire career. I'll tell you, there are so many reasons, but I'm honored to be on this ticket. And Kamala Harris says this often. She says, where else but this great country could you have a middle-class kid from Oakland and a middle-class kid from rural Nebraska be running for president and vice president of the United States? And you and us, we are running like everything's on the line. Because everything's on the line. It is. We feel it, you know it. Now, I know some of you have heard this, and you heard it from neighbors. You might have heard it from friends. You heard it from family. I hear it from family. Look, what's the big deal? We made it through a first Trump presidency. We can make, you know how they remember, like, misremember how it was during Trump when he was killing jobs here in Pennsylvania, when our neighbors were being stacked into U-Hauls because he wouldn't deal with the COVID pandemic. You know that. Look, they think we can make it through another one. That is a dangerous complacency that cannot stand. And you're seeing it in these final days. You're seeing it in the final days. So many people. Remember when Donald Trump said he only selects the best people? Well, it turns out those people he selected who know him best, who sat beside him in the Oval Office, who were in the Situation Room, they are out there now, as Vice President Harris said, dialing 911 to the American public and telling us what this guy is. Look, these are professionals. These are not politicians. They are not partisans. They are people that spent their entire life in service to this nation. General Mark Milley, the highest military officer in this country, is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He said that Trump is, and this is a quote, the most dangerous person ever. Another four-star Marine general, James Mattis, Trump's own Secretary of Defense, said he agrees 100% with that. And earlier this week, we saw another four-star general, John Kelly, his former chief of staff, came out and said on the record that Donald Trump is a textbook fascist, and he would rule like a dictator. Behind closed doors, Donald Trump was confiding with his generals and said, you know what I really need? I need generals like Hitler had. Now, to my sisters and brothers in arms here, I served 24 years in this nation's uniform. And just like any other American, that makes me sick as hell that this guy is saying that, just to be clear. Look, it was the sons and daughters of Pennsylvania that did everything to make sure during World War II that we'd win this. Maybe Donald forgot that Hitler's and his generals were on the other side of this thing. And it was the sons of Minnesota and Pennsylvania that were carrying the Stars and Stripes that kicked his ass and saved this world from fascism. Look, they're telling us this because there's a belief that somehow, even though we know better, they think the Donald Trump of 2016 is the Donald Trump of 2024. He is not. That's not who we're seeing here. This Donald Trump has called for the termination of the Constitution. Now these are where you videotape this and send it to your damn cousin who says, oh, I don't know, Trump's not too bad. Termination of the Constitution wants Hitler's generals. And here's what he's saying, too. This Donald Trump says he would like to use the United States military, and those here who wore the uniform, thank you for that. But imagine, at any time in American history, a president saying he would like to use the military against those who don't support him. The enemy from within. Look, I know where I'm at on that list, clear up near the top. But don't kid yourself. Eventually, you'll be on that list, too. That's how dictators work. He says he wants to be a dictator on day one, just for one day. Has there ever been a one-day dictator? No, of course not. He wants to weaponize our institutions, democratic institutions, against the American public. Look, take his own word for it. He said he wanted to be that dictator, and he said he would do it during his presidency. He's not just saying it, people. He's promising. He's promising. We know enough about our history. Shame on us if we're not listening. Maya Angelou was right. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. He is telling us. Believe him. Now, that first presidency had a few guardrails around him. That first presidency had some folks who were there. That is now almost entirely gone. The guardrails and the safety net. He surrounded himself now with lunatics. And I want to give you a few names. Mike Flynn. This is a guy who they said he wants military tribunals to execute political opponents. And when he was asked about this last week, they said, are you really asking for military tribunals to execute your political rivals? His answer was, we have to win the election first. And then I didn't know much about this person other than I saw her traveling around with Donald Trump. And I'm actually kind of encouraging it. There's this person named Laura Loomer that hangs around with him. Now this is her claim to fame. She apparently advised him for his spectacular debate performance that he put on here a while back. So, yeah. And then there's your friend and my friend that you heard it, and I heard Bill Hamilton here, Teamsters, talking about it. Elon Musk. Elon Musk. Now this one is this. So thank you. You got a choice in this election, folks. So when he brings Musk to Pennsylvania, he asks. Thank you. Look, this thing about Bill is right. Musk wants to control these things, and what Trump promised Musk is that Musk will be in charge of the regulations and the businesses that Musk owns. So we've all seen this. These are guys that don't want to pay overtime. They're folks that don't want to have worker safety. These are folks that want to bust unions. He and Trump sat on there and were on tape saying when people strike, we should just fire them all. That's who these people are. So I Midwestern on this, the rally, and I think it was here in Pennsylvania, that Elon was on the stage jumping around. That's what I said. I used a Midwestern euphemism. I said he's prancing and dancing around like a dipshit. And that is exactly what it was. That is exactly what it was. That guy, the richest man in the world, threatening union workers who do everything from building our roads to protecting us in the police force to teaching our kids to the nurses in our hospitals. Those are the people. And look, on the guardrails piece, he surrounded himself with lunatics. He's got his billionaires that are behind him, and he did something that he promised he would do. I have to be clear. I say Donald Trump never keeps a promise. He keeps some of them. He keeps some of them. He promised he was going to take and put Supreme Court justices on who would overturn Roe versus Wade, and he did that. Yesterday he said, this is a Trump code. We've got immunity at the Supreme Court. It's so easy. Now think about this. If this guy wins again, he'll appoint 2 or 3 more justices to the Supreme Court during his time. So the gray hairs here, we'll never see the end of that. The middle-aged folks here, maybe. Our children and grandchildren will be living under the decisions that these folks make if Donald Trump appoints 6 of 9 Supreme Court justices. And look, you've got them here and we got them in Minnesota. There is no guts in the Republican Congress to stand up to this guy. I don't know how they stand up at all. They have no spine, so how the hell do they stand up? So, none. And I know you got good congressional candidates. You're going to pick off a couple of them here in Pennsylvania that need to be sent back. But look, the guardrails, I said, are almost all gone. There is still one left. Us. 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 The American people. So, all those public school teachers who are here, look, I know this is, yeah. I was giving you some pretty heavy stuff there, but I think it's been pretty obvious, I hope you know. I'm an eternal optimist for lots of reasons. The teachers here would know I always tell people I supervised the lunchroom for a lot of years, so I am an optimist. Look, we have got this. That is heavy stuff, and it's there. But here's the good news, folks. In 11 days, we put an end to this thing. Donald Trump gets nowhere near the White House. And when we vote for Kamala Harris on the 12th day, we say, congratulations, Madam President. Now, it's important to know what we're up against, but we're not just voting against something. But you can be damn sure we are voting to make sure. Look, there's many, many reasons that we want to vote against Donald Trump. And I am not by nature a petty person, but I will own this one on this. I just don't want to turn on the TV and never see him again. I don't want to hear him talk. I don't want to see it. I don't want to do it. No. Because this guy, it's always been about him. I saw a great one today. I didn't see, I try and stay off the media or whatever, but you know when your phone screen comes up when it's closed or whatever, and you got your kid's picture on there, or your dog, which we do, you know. I won't make you choose between your kids and your dog. It's a hard one. He's got a picture of himself on it, for Christ's sakes. For real. Because it's about him. And the difference is Kamala Harris talks often. She wants to be a president for all Americans, for every one of us. So, while Donald has an enemies list, she's got a to-do list for the American public. This is the one. When they keep asking us, what are you offering and what's the difference? You know what he's going to do. He's telling you exactly what he's going to do, and we know what he's going to do, and none of it's good. Here's what Kamala Harris is going to do. She knows that the economy works best when we make sure that it works for everyone, when we lower costs for the middle class, when everyone gets a chance to get ahead. Under the plan we put together, 100 million Americans squarely in the middle class will see a tax cut for them. And look, it matters. A child tax credit to reduce childhood poverty, $6,000 in the first year of that child's life to get them off to a good start and get them to that school and get them their education and get them healthy. Now, we're going to make, you all know this, and I see the folks out here, cost of child care and how hard it is, trying to find child care. I remember when I took my daughter in, and you're like in an interview to get in the child care, I'm like, oh, please, God, be good today. I want you to get into child care. Because it's really hard to get them in. But J.D. Vance says, oh, just have grandma do it. Because grandma, you know, grandma wouldn't have a career. Grandma wouldn't have a life. Grandma wouldn't have something to do because they don't have, that's the way they see these things. And this idea, and I want to be clear about this, capping the prices of things, these guys talk about, oh, that's like Venezuelan, you know, socialism or something like that. Look, we believe in the free market. And for the market to work, it needs to be a fair market. So things, capping life-saving insulin at $35 so we don't have people rationing it and dying. Let's be clear. When she talks about stopping price gouging, let's be clear what that means. That little vial of insulin that now is capped at $35 for seniors, it's capped for all people in Minnesota, and Kamala Harris wants to be capped for everyone across the country. That little vial was selling in Minnesota before we capped it for up to $800. You know how much it cost to make it? $5. So you saw it in Florida. We have a hurricane coming. Oh, that's weird. Airline prices went through the roof because people were trying to fly to safety away from that. That's not capitalism. That's price gouging, and it's immoral. And then for all of you, those in the middle, the sandwich generation, making child care more affordable, doing a tax credit for child tax credit, making sure we have universal pre-K, then doing things like we did in Minnesota, free breakfast and lunch at our school so kids can eat and get done. Those things. I'll make the case. Kamala Harris is providing, and those of us in the middle in that sandwich generation, I got a 18-year-old, and I've got a nearly 90-year-old. And she proposed something, and I watched. Young folks in here, I know you don't get it. It doesn't really resonate with you. Once you get 60, you really care about Medicare, I'll tell you that. You really start caring. Because Medicare and Social Security are the two greatest anti-poverty programs that we've ever implemented. They're important. She proposed something that's a game changer. Having Medicare pay for in-home care for people so they can stay in their homes. Stay in their homes. And I did not know this until I saw it with my mother using it, that Kamala's proposing, because it doesn't happen now, is that Medicare pay for vision and hearing aids and glasses. When my mom finally bought and was able to get a hearing aid, she was a hell of a lot more fun. We could hear her then. She was engaged. She was back in again. Now look, a report came out under Donald Trump that his plan would bankrupt Social Security in 6 years. He called it a Ponzi scheme. J.D. Vance said it was the biggest obstacle to fiscal sanity ever. You all know how Social Security works. We pay into it, damn it. We pay into it. And it pays back out. And I'll tell you what, if it's not there, imagine what things are like. For my family, I'm a teenager. My little brother's in elementary school. My dad dies. My mom is a stay-at-home mom. It's Social Security survivor benefits that get us through. They keep our family alive. These are tough people in Pennsylvania, tough people in Minnesota. For God's sakes, you could have moved on to California where it's warm, but oh no, you stopped here. And you stopped in Minnesota, and you carved out a life. That's what you did. But every one of us knows how to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We didn't have any boots. That's what Social Security survivor benefits do. That's what Social Security means to seniors. But look, I'll give Donald Trump this. From his perspective, why the hell should he care about Social Security check? His dad gave him $400 million, and he's sitting down at Mar-a-Lago. He doesn't care if the Social Security check gets deposited or not. We care. You know why they want to bankrupt Social Security? Because they want to privatize it and force it outside to give the money to their Wall Street buddies. That's what they want to do. Kamala and I care about these things. My proudest moment. My proudest moment. My proudest moment. So, yay. So, I have to tell you, when I got into this, and this is for all the working folks, all the small business owners, nurses, teachers, I got into this race, and the Wall Street Journal did an analysis of our financial disclosures. And they said, damn, Tim Walz might be the poorest person to ever run for vice president. But you know what they did after that? They said, well, he's not really as poor as he looks. And like, oh, it's going to be a bombshell. Like he's hiding stocks, you know, because they said he doesn't have any stocks. He doesn't do any of this. You know what their bombshell was? He's got a defined benefit pension plan. And I said, we all should have a defined benefit pension plan. And look, the other thing we've got is we've got the ACA. We've got Obamacare that makes sure they can't discriminate against us for pre-existing conditions. And we know one of the biggest obstacles for folks wanting to start their American dream is access to capital, especially in communities that have been underserved. That's why she's got a plan to make sure that we have money up front to start businesses. We have a $50,000 tax credit so that the tax, because just to be clear, our biggest corporations in this country are paying no federal tax. Donald Trump paid no federal tax for 10 or 15 years. When you balance and make the tax system fair, they can pay their fair share. They're doing just fine. They'll do fine. Then you're able to make sure you target the tax relief at those small business owners and those folks trying to get off the ground. That's what we can do. And again, I'm going to be clear on this. This is a big issue for everybody. Home ownership, young people here trying to get into a home. Kamala's proposed, make sure we build 3 million more new units and we do a down payment, 25,000 down payment assistance to help people get into that. But let's be clear, it makes sense. That's the thing. We need to do it. But this is the one that just irritated the hell out of me. I'm sitting at a debate, and they're asking about housing, housing costs and things like that. And Senator Vance says, well, the reason that housing costs are so high, the immigrants have bought all the houses. I'm like, where the hell are they getting the money from? Where's this going? But what was so cynical about that was, as a venture capitalist, he knows why this is so hard. They're buying up the houses for profit, reselling them and making profit off that. They don't see houses as homes. They see houses as a commodity, like a stock, to be traded on Wall Street to make money. That's why the housing prices are going up, and that's why this plan makes it easier for folks to get in their housing, and that's what we need to do. Look, the thing you do have to at least be somewhat, I guess, I'm not going to say thankful. At least they're saying the quiet part out loud now. When Donald Trump took the billionaires, had them at Mar-a-Lago where they come and kiss his feet or whatever they do, they came down there. He says to them, oh, you're all rich as hell and I'm going to give you a tax cut. He followed through with that. He did that. Now he's getting more cynical as you have to figure it out. Now he's proposing, this is his genius idea that no economist agrees with. He's going to put his Trump tax on everything. He wants you to believe that a tariff is not going to end up being a bill to you. Everybody in this room knows it's exactly going to go to you, because what do you think? You think those companies are going to eat that? They're going to pass it on to you. They're going to pass it on to you, adding $4,000 to each and every one of you. Now look, I think there's probably some folks in here who are probably leaning independent. Maybe some reformed Republicans who've seen the light, but they're in here. Look, it didn't used to be this way. And folks used to move. We used to kind of play amongst the 40-yard lines on things. But we don't now. We don't go amongst the 40-yard lines. And I think it's worth noting. I think it's worth noting. The Republican Party, whether it was Eisenhower or Ronald Reagan or John McCain, that Republican Party added to the country. We didn't always agree on many things, but when they talked about freedom, I think they meant it. When Donald Trump talks about freedom, it's freedom to be in your bedroom, freedom to be in your exam room, freedom to be in your library, telling you what you should read. And you've heard me say this, and I know this is the Pennsylvania one too, is things work better if you just mind your own damn business on those things. Don't go. That is not a catchphrase or a flippant thing. That is a golden rule that we all learned, and you know it's true. You stay out of other people. I don't have to agree with what you're doing in your house, but why in the heck would we ever allow a politician to make those most personal of decisions? It makes no sense. So good. When Kamala talks about freedom, freedom for you to make the choice about your health care, freedom for you to make the choice about your family, freedom for you to make the choice about your job, freedom for you to make the choice about what you read. That's what we're talking about in freedom. Now look, you heard me say it. Freedom for our seniors to retire with dignity, and for all of those folks out there, and you just think about it. We get our little ones up, and you start to get them, you take our little ones. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about freedom. We're going to talk about freedom. Freedom to protect our children from being shot dead in our schools. To everybody in here, there's a lot of issues out there, and we need to tackle them, but things like this we can agree on. Look, I am a veteran. I am a hunter, and I'm a gun owner. I was a better shot than almost all of the folks in Congress. Kamala Harris and I, think about this. We're both gun owners. We understand that owning a firearm doesn't mean that you can't have common sense reforms that protect people. Look, I am a staunch supporter of the Constitution, unlike Donald Trump, who wants to overturn it. And part of the Constitution is I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. But I will not I will not capitulate. My first responsibility is the protection of our children and our communities. Now, I'll leave you with this. Just think about this for a moment. On the cosplaying and the stuff that happens out there, Vice President Harris and I, the Democratic nominee for president and vice president, are both gun owners. The Republican nominee can't pass a background check to buy one. He cannot. He cannot. Those of you who bought a gun here, you know this. Imagine him going into Bass Pro Shop, filling out the form, and the form comes back that you got 34 felony convictions. They kick you out. They kick you out of the store. They don't sell you a gun. Because we don't want people to have guns who shouldn't have one. That's why he's on the list. Let me bring this into a little focus as we close up here. And this one I'll talk to the guys in here so they think about this. Look, think about the women in your lives that you love. Your daughters, your wives, your moms, your neighbors, for God's sakes, other folks. This election for the women in this room is literally about their lives. Is literally about their lives. If you're wondering why they continue to poll this, and Republicans are like, oh, I can't believe that abortion issues and bodily autonomy and the right to make my own decisions is so important to people. Well, it might come back to when Kamala Harris was grilling those Supreme Court justices who lied about their position on that. Who lied? She asked them, are there any laws that oversee men's rights autonomy over their own body? There aren't any. So look, he brags about what he did. He is proud that the women in your life now have fewer rights than their mothers or grandmothers had. He calls his Trump abortion bans a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. You heard Susan talk about this. Someone wants to have a child, pregnancy goes bad, and they need to get care. They're now being turned away. In Texas, physicians can go to prison for life for that. Would this surprise you that in the most recent data, maternal mortality rates in Texas have shot through the roof? So let's just be very clear. Women are dying because of these decisions they made, and it's absolutely immoral. It's why we need to make sure when we elect Kamala Harris, we elect a House and a Senate, and we codify Roe versus Wade. Because if we don't, I said on a debate stage, and Senator Vance has many times said he wants a national abortion ban, and then they asked him, and of course the rules were we couldn't fact check, which is pretty much not a debate, it's a bullshit session is what it becomes to. But he's saying, I don't want to have, no, I didn't want that. Of course they will. And when they do that, they'll also add in there restricting your access to fertility treatments. And I've talked about this. Look, people don't want to have to talk about their personal things. My wife and I, it was personal to us. But once the Dobbs decision, when it happened and Roe fell, we were super worried because we tried for years to have children. We used fertility treatments to have our beautiful daughter. I cannot imagine the pain. You don't want an elected official, certainly not Donald Trump, to make the decision whether you can have a family or not. It's absolutely, again, it's immoral and it shouldn't stand. So for all of you, look, we're going to sign that thing back into law. We are going to make this thing happen. And so look, 11 days, folks, 11 days. Now, I get it. When we gather like this, I am preaching to the choir. I get it. Our recital is 11 days away, choir. And all of the money that's been raised, all of the time that you've given, all of the door knocking and the phone banking, all the commercials that you're sick to hell of seeing, all of that has got to translate into that little sticker you put on that said, I voted. I voted. And I'm going to quote a famous business leader from this part of the country that I am not superstitious, but I am a little stitious, just so you know, a little bit. She saw what I did there. Thank you for that. Look, we got to finish strong. We know that. And what I would say is, you know what's coming here, folks. It's Friday night. It is Friday Night Lights, folks. This guy gets it. It's the fourth quarter. It's going to be tight. It's the fourth quarter. We have got the best team on the field. We got the ball driving down on the last drive to win this thing. We have got to do this 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, one door at a time, one call at a time, $1 at a time, one vote at a time. Because think about it. When would you have the privilege? Billions of people around the world couldn't imagine coming, gathering in this hall, and deciding to work our asses off to have a country that we want to see, a society that we want to see. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. One vote in each precinct in Pennsylvania could make the difference. That's how close this thing is. And you've heard me saying it is, we can find time to sleep when we're dead. That is not now. That is not now. We've got 11 days. You yourselves have got to vote. How many are already done? How many have voted? All right. Early vote if you can. Early vote if you can. Get out there. If you're voting by mail, get it in. If you're voting in person, iwillvote.com/PA. You know how to do that. Get to the polling places. All of those things matter. And if we talk to one person, again, talk to them about what's at stake. Talk to them that's there. For Christ's sakes, this coalition is so big, Bernie Sanders and Dick Cheney are buddies right now. Who knew? Who knew? They're not going to agree. Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen. There they go. So you got this is somebody asked me my favorite quote the other day, and I said from that great poet Bruce Springsteen, it ain't no sin to be glad you're alive, and especially right now. Right now. Don't get anxious. Don't watch the polls. Don't watch the news. Take action about this. Make a difference, and I guarantee you, the impact we make is not for 4 years, it's for 40. It's not for this generation, it's for multiple. It's not just for Pennsylvania, it's for the entire country and the rest of the world. We have that opportunity. So, look, for some of us, when we're old and we're sitting on the porch in the rocking chair and rocking, and somebody's going to say, what happened in that 2024 election? And you said, we kicked the crap out of Donald Trump at the ballot box. That's what happened. So, you know, the vice president says it. It's time to switch up her saying a little bit, because she says, when we fight, we win. When we vote, we win. Let's elect Kamala Harris our next president. Let's go.